Did you know there are 160 rooms in my house? It has turrets and gables, spires and peaks, gingerbread and gargoyles, wildly sloping roofs, rooms with 13 windows, chandeliers with 13 lights, 13 bathrooms, staircases with 13 steps. My house has dead ends and secret passages, and doorways that open into sudden, terrible drops. Labyrinth within labyrinth. It's all because of the ghosts, you see. In 1881, Sarah Winchester's life changed forever when her husband, the heir to the Winchester rifle fortune, died of tuberculosis. After meeting with a medium, Sarah was convinced that the spirits of dead rifle victims were haunting her. In Within the Ghostly Mansion's Labyrinth by Don Nigro, an adaptation of this true story, we find that this labyrinth of hell may not only be in Sarah's house, but in her mind as well. You see, it all began the year when they took my only child and my husband and buried them in the ground, and my despair was like drowning in an ocean, and so in desperation and without much hope, I went to a seance to try to speak to my loved ones. And it was there that the medium told me that the spirit of my dead husband was standing right beside me, holding out a skeleton key to a house that did not yet exist. You see, the medium told me that my husband had a task which only I could do for him. To build a great house of all those who had been killed by Winchester rifles. And thus began the great mission of my life. I sold my home here in New Haven and headed west, convinced that the spirit of my dead husband would tell me where to stop and build this ghostly mansion. And here, in the Santa Clara Valley, I came upon a house, almost hidden in the woods and only half built. And here, the spirits began shrieking in my head and banging on pots and pans and doing somersaults and cartwheels and bouncing on giant springs and singing opera. So I thought, well, this must be the place. I bought the half-done house, and when I told the builder of my plans to construct a home for the ghosts of dead rifle victims, well, the idiot began to treat me as if I was a crazy woman. But no matter. A person with enough money can find a carpenter for any job. And so for the next 30-odd years, I spent my time building, adding on, tearing down, but mostly building. Rooms and floors and wings and steeples onto my great house. You know, I follow the bidding of the spirit world on this one. You see, the spirits are impatient, so I must be as well. You know, often I hold a banquet for my ghostly friends. 13 places are set for myself and the ghosts. And once I had a presentiment that a terrible flood would engulf the earth, so I had an ark built in the backyard. And I lived in it for 10 years. Until soon I grew tired of the foul stench and began to wonder if the spirits had not played a malicious trick on me. So I moved back into my house. I'm very particular about whom I allow in my house. I wouldn't let that blowhard Teddy Roosevelt anywhere near it. All that bully this and bully that and ups on one hill. What a silly man, I thought. And you know, I didn't care for his mustache either. I did invite Houdini once, though. What a charming man, I thought. But you see, the spirits, they took a powerful dislike to him and kept dropping dead mice from the chandelier into his soup. So I took him to a far part of the house and ditched him for a lark through a secret passageway. Now I presume he found his way out eventually, as there is still someone named Houdini getting shot out of cannons or something, isn't there? Now the blue room. The blue room is a small chamber in which I hold my seances. No one but myself and the ghosts are allowed in this room. And here, the spirits whisper secrets to me. Often of late, I cannot sleep and simply wander the house at night, spirits trailing behind me like slightly crazed puppies. And you know, I play a game with them, moving about the house in the dark until I'm lost. But you see, I am never lost. And somehow, always lost. It's a dangerous game considering the odd geography of my home. But all games are dangerous, are they not? I'll tell you a secret. In the old days, I rejected the primitive idea that spirits of the dead were anything to fear. I had built this lovely house for them, gaping gunshot wounds and all. I knew they were my friends. But you see, now that I have spent the better part of my life surrounded by them, I will tell you that I have learned to fear them. Oh, many are harmless enough, too much wrapped up in their own grief to hurt anybody. But it's the others, and there are others, there are always others. Darker things. And you know, sometimes I wonder if perhaps they're not the ones who are trying to kill me. I heard of a man named Pendragon who constructed a similar house in Ohio in the early part of the last century, but we'll see, his house was less cleverly designed than mine is. But you know, one night, they caught up to him and they killed him. And you know, sometimes I wonder if I've not constructed this house, this strange eccentric labyrinth, not to please and amuse the ghosts, but to confuse and preoccupy them so they can't get to me. You know, I sleep in different parts of the house each night, sometimes under a stairwell or up on the roof. But they always sniff me out. And in the year 1910, there was a terrible shaking and rumbling all over the house, and I was thrown violently out of my bed and onto the chamber pot. I was convinced that they had finally come to destroy me. Oh, the servants tell me it was just some earthquake in San Francisco. A likely story. But I know that sooner or later they will corner me in some dead-end corridor and rip out my throat and leave me gaping. And the servants who think that I'm mad will find me in the middle of a bloody finger painting the next morning. I know the truth. the dead do not love us. They hate us, they fear and resent us. They resent our suit of living flesh and our capacity to create. And no matter how complex the construction of your labyrinth is, sooner or later, we turn a corner and come face to face, a hideous, rotting face as if in the mirror. And they reach out their skeleton fingers towards us. And we are lost, doomed to wander the dark and twisted labyrinth of hell.